live in a second. You'll be asked, of course, hey, if you're good. And now while we're coming live, YouTube, we're back at her again today. So it's great to see you. We'll have the formal introductions in a moment, but we are season 4 of Syndicate Talks. I do a little bit of button pushing. And our guest, my brother from another mother, of course, is Ben Arledge. And we will turn that audio off, so that's not irritating at all. The glowing box talking to me in so many different ways today. Anyway, bear with me for 1 second. We'll get started in here very, very shortly. But we, of course, are live right now. I got a little bit to do, and then we're going to get into this formally. Where are we? Please stand by. There we go. That one's there. I have to, of course, pick the playlist. I have to click the little box that says this is not made for children, just so everybody gets along well. And type one line. Playlist, thumbnail, saved, and we are good to go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, brothers and sisters, and Syndicate family members, of course, we are now live. This is Syndicate Talks, season 4. What? And where we're shooting this is in the first quarter. It's the first part of 2022. And of course, I am your host, Mitch Camage. Syndicate started 2 years ago, and a Syndicate Talk started for one simple reason. It began at the beginning of the pandemic, where we looked at the members that we had, we looked at the information available and our ability to educate people in business itself, and realized still how tough it was to find those kinds of resources. And when you put together a cool little community, a lovely tribe of business owners, entrepreneurs, innovators, creators, and technically competent people like Syndicate, you've got a treasure trove, a vast wealth of information and education to be able to help other people figure stuff out. So at the beginning of the pandemic, we started season 1 of Syndicate Talks, where we took some of the best and brightest and gave away what they do for free to build education amongst our members and to share that with the world. And those things that actually shouldn't be too hard to find. Of course, you still need technical help to do it, but understanding better makes you smarter at business, makes life a little better, and makes it a little easier for you. So now we're in season 4, where we are talking about what it is that makes the world turn, the information, the education, insights, and technology that are going to make business better, faster, smarter for you and your business, of course. And that's why we're bringing my brother, Ben Arledge, today. Ben Arledge, Cloud Owl, Ben Arledge, Avenue IO, Ben Arledge for all these different technology companies. Ben, if you recognize him, you will have seen him in at least season 1, and I think he was in season 2 of Syndicate Talks as well. And he was seminal at the formation of Syndicate itself. Ben, it is great to see you, my brother, as always, and to get you into season 4. 2 years ago, did we think we would have one whole season of our own video podcast? Never mind 4 of them 2 years later. That's really going down a rabbit hole for us here. So thank you for joining us as always. And brother, while I finish 2 more quick little button pushes, why don't you give the short and dirty version of who you are, you know, the usual biographical stuff, and then we'll dive right in to help people learn a little more about what you do and how that can make an impact on them and their lives and businesses.
Yeah, thanks, Mitch. Appreciate it. Yeah, Syndicate's been great the last couple of years. We've come a long way, and lots of info sharing, community collaboration. It's been great. Happy to be here. So a little bit about me, Ben Arledge, 24 years in web and software development. I've been a business owner for 19 years. Cloud Owl, Avenue IO. I've got a couple other startups as well in the last couple of years. I love staying busy. I've got a wife, 4 kids. So yes, busy is an understatement. For Cloud Owl, it's a development agency. So what I do is, I build software, web apps for a number of different clients. And that involves maintenance afterwards, hosting, a lot of different things. I've got a team of 10 developers and designers, and we're all remote. We're across 6 different countries right now.
Fantastic. So Ben, you've talked technology before. You've talked the gamut of technology in the past. We've even touched on places like AI software and other things like that. So you've given the short version of it. What is it that you do every day? I mean, your business has grown quite a bit in the last 2 years. Not everybody can say that in the midst of a pandemic. So your business and your businesses are continuing to thrive and develop and grow. What is a day in the life for Ben? What's the stuff that he's doing on a day-to-day basis? And you mentioned team members in a foreign place. I don't mean foreign as in they're not here. They're not in your backyard. You don't have an office, whatever it is. So you can bring in people from all over the world to help you technically. What's a day in the life, and what's some of the really cool stuff you're building for people right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're, I mean, the world it is today, everything has moved a little bit more towards the remote side of things, which, has left me relatively unscathed, thankfully. In the last, 2 years, things have really changed for our business. So, we're still doing the same things, but, on a larger scale. We've overcome some of those scaling challenges pretty well. So we're really looking to bring on a lot more business as well in that area. So a lot of the things we do is software development. It's a very general term, so that can involve a lot of different things. So web apps, mobile apps, even desktop apps we've done. So then we have cloud infrastructure and hosting. There's a lot of design, UI, and user interface and UX, so user experience stuff we deal with. Branding, business strategy, product roadmaps. We work with a lot of startups, especially. So these can be small businesses or brand new companies. And then, myself personally, I work as a CTO for a lot of these companies. So when you work with me and CloudOwl, I essentially become your CTO, and I am part of your business. I'm your advisor, your strategist. I'm looking out for your business as well, and providing that leadership and project management for your product and service. So, yeah, that's more or less what I do.
Uh-huh. Fantastic. So with everything that's happened in the pandemic, things are getting busier for you, and it's wonderful to hear. I mean, just context for people for a moment. Some people are running scared. Some people really don't have a lot of money right now. Other people, they didn't feel like they felt it at all, or they really started to accelerate. So it's great to see that, because that also speaks to stewardship, right? Some agility that went in there as well. What would you say is one of the challenges that you navigated coming forward from here to there? It didn't touch you an awful lot, but life changed quite a bit for you. And I mean, that obviously changed for your clients and customers. So what's one thing that you see and hear from people regularly, maybe not necessarily related to the pandemic, that you say, man, 2 years ago compared to now, quite a bit different?
Mm-hmm. Surprisingly, there's a lot more money available now. We're in a period where investment capital is near an all-time high. People are looking to shift their businesses, so new opportunities, but also changing what they're doing currently. So that's what I've seen in the last little bit.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I know you got a whole list of stuff, and there's things you prefer to talk about as well. There's the stuff that I'm going to ask you to. So we're going to start with it. We're going to go with a softball. What's a really cool and interesting project you're working on right now? Mm-hmm. We'll start soft and work our way out from there.
Yeah. Okay. So many. Okay. We have, I'll talk about Carrot. So this is one of my startups, and I'm a co-founder for this company. My other co-founder is in Los Angeles, which is where most of our business is based currently. And this is a food donation and rescue platform. So what this is software to help businesses donate food and put it on a marketplace, so to speak, for nonprofits, other agencies to rescue that food and give it to people that need it. We also work with government agencies and municipalities to track this, because they do have, in California and other states, they have legislative requirements to report donated food and things like that. So being a legal requirement, they need software to do that. We provide that platform.
Very cool. Very cool. How many people do you think you're going to help? Okay. Or let me reset that. That could be part B to that question. But
Mhm.
you obviously are in business because you got to pay your mortgage and you got a wife and you got 4 kids, you mentioned already, and these businesses don't run themselves. So we always get into business because we think we can do it better than somebody else, that we can do it smarter than somebody else, we can make our own money. But it's not the only reason you're in business too, right?
Mhm.
What is it that keeps you getting up every morning to help your clients? Getting paid is certainly helpful. But what's part of that too? Because Carrot, that's a really specific kind of business. And that cannot just be, hey, I think I'm going to get paid off of this. That sounds like it's got some really intrinsic but tangible value to the world and society itself. It's got to be something to it there with Ben.
Mhm. Yeah, I love, apps and businesses and ideas that involve, significant impact. Um, you know, I, I wake up every day and I look at, what legacy am I leaving behind? But, there's the other side of it too. I want to make piles of cash like everybody else. So, um, if you don't have money, it's not sustainable, right? No matter how great your idea is, it'll fizzle out because you have to meet your needs, and beyond. So having that, those two major factors, is what really keeps me going. When it comes to impact, I look for three things. Does it save time? Does it save money? Or does it improve your quality of life? So, if you're building a product that can do all three, that's the trifecta, really. And that is what Carrot means to me. Is it does all three of those. So, and of course, it provides an ecological and social impact as well. So, yeah, that's what I really find drives me for Carrot.
Outstanding. What do you now? I want to take this and set it back for a moment, because we all know technology partners, but we also just know plain business people. And there's some people do a little bit of work, some people build a lot of work, some people build an agency. Where are you at? You mentioned working with the development team before. Are you
Mhm.
largely a one-man person and you get other support? Are you building an agency? Why I ask that is that some people just like to work with one or two companies at a time. And because we know each other personally as well, I know where your business is going, and I'm really trying to get you to set the table for how you've grown and how your business has developed too before we start to get a little more into the technical, right? Where are
Mhm.
you at right now, that footprint? Like, how many projects are you working with, right? You mentioned one of
Mhm.
the cool ones that you really love as well. And what are you working towards the next year or 2 years?
Yeah, we have about 6 or 7 projects at the moment, which is, they're varying sizes, different industries. It's the variety is nice. I appreciate that, and some of the things we share between projects and creativity and opportunity. That's where I can serve all of my clients really well. But a lot of what I do is educating. Um, so, and that's partly why I'm here today, is to educate you. What do people need to know about software development? What are some of the pitfalls or the myths and misconceptions, things like that. So yeah, that's really what I like to do to serve my customers. Yeah,
Well, let's get into that, because
yeah,
what's involved, right?
absolutely.
People either think that it's going to be dirt cheap.
Yeah,
If I can take the glowing box in my hand and go touch the button and download it, and it costs me 99 cents, how much could it possibly make to cost to make, right?
hmm,
Or it must be so expensive that I can't do it. There's nothing I can do.
yeah,
Let's start to kill that. Let's start to put some needles in some of this stuff, because myths and misconceptions are the ones that keep people afraid to ever even ask the question, never mind try.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with what do people need to know about software development, and a lot of it is you really don't know what you don't know. So having that curiosity is important. Um, Tech changes rapidly, and the decisions we make now have compound interest. Uh, and technical debt just amplifies if you're making the wrong choices up front, or choices which have a lot of risk up front as well. So having the right people in place to help you with those decisions is important. And then when it comes to software development, we have what's called a minimum viable product, or MVP for short. Now, what that is what when you start development, you need a core piece of software that you're releasing for B2B or B2C use. What is absolutely necessary versus what would you like to have? Some of those fancier bells and whistles. Having that MVP narrowed down is important for faster time to revenue. You get faster feedback, and then you're able to pivot if necessary a lot easier with that MVP. And you get the benefit of lower costs as well. Speaking of costs, a lot of people don't realize is, I want to build this great piece of software for my business or to serve my customers. But what happens after that? You've still got costs, right? You've got hosting costs, you've got maintenance, security, you've got marketing and sales, which are going to be closely tied to that piece of software. You've got probably a roadmap that you'll have to cover as well for new things that you want to add and to enhance your software. And then you get feedback from your customers for that as well, to help with that roadmap. But it's a constantly ever evolving, entity once you've released that product. So, and you want to get the right advisors for that as well. So when you're building software, you're going to need a CTO or someone to lead that project. You might have investors. You might be working with an incubator or a startup, entity that might be government funded. You might have coaches, right? Consultants that will help you with different parts of that. And all of those pieces are important to, deliver a serious, impactful product. Yeah.
Now we talked about the product itself. What would you consider the, bookends at the far end of the kind of product you build? Software isn't just software. It does different things. It can do banking, it can do recipes, it can control your lights, it can manage your finances, it can help store data, it can be a CRM or a customer relationship management software, it can handle your marketing, it can do operations and project management. So software can do anything you can kind of think of. What's kind of the scope? And I don't mean the only things you can do, but would you consider your extreme edges? And by those extreme edges as well, let's give people a sense of like cost, because there's also going to be bookends, right? Like the bell curve of life. There's going to be a cost at one end. There's going to be all the money in the world and none of the money in the world. Chances are it's going to be somewhere in the middle. I would love for people to have some sense of that expectation too, because they're, in the coming weeks, months, and years, however many people, dozens, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people that could hear you talk about this in a moment, give them a dollar figure. And yeah, it's going to change given time. We know that. That's life. It's circumstance. But right now, what does it take to get into that too?
Yeah. So for a basic website, or even a non-basic website, you're looking at, a starting point of about $2,000. Anything less than that, you're cutting corners and might not be taken seriously. At the high end, you're probably looking at about 10,000 for your business. Small business. If you've got a large business, you can go up from there. But I typically don't deal with the major ones, and those ones will have in-house teams anyway. So on a web app, you're looking at a range from 25 to 200K. And that's going to take anywhere from 4 to 12 months to build, depending on the complexity and things like that.
I was just going to ask how long that was going to take because,
Yeah.
Again, if I could push the glowy button and it's going to be on my phone, well, crap, the internet's slow today. It took 5 minutes instead of 2 or 30 seconds. That's a really good idea because you can't solve your problem tomorrow.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. And these are for custom, web apps and mobile apps. So that is, something that you can't buy off the shelf. It serves a very specific need. You have the ownership of the IP. So there's a lot of things that go into that. So, it's very similar for a mobile app, a slightly higher, I think, starting cost. The production complexity for mobile apps is a little bit higher than a web app. So you're looking at probably about a $50,000 starting point for an app. And that's going to be on both app stores as well. So iOS, Android, and you're looking at a similar time frame for those 4 to 12 months, depending on the complexity. And then, you've got marketing costs on top of that. Obviously, that can be like $20K and up, depending on what staff or other resources you're utilizing. But that's also important to factor into your product development cycle.
Now we started the conversation fairly organic, fairly simplistic, and fairly standard interview. But we also know each other really well, and we've known each other for a number of years now. We're coming on. I think we're still going to start pushing 4 years here right away. Willingness from the gods there itself. So I know you and I know your business, and I'm going to ask you this: you don't just start with people that are software virgins or software agnostic. You are often coming in, and I've seen you pick up some really interesting messes. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to give people some things to watch for at the front end or some questions, let's help a brother and a sister out there by saying, listen, if you're going to go in and talk to somebody about this, and by the way, hey, internet world and Cyndicate family, it's got to be our boy Ben. It has to be, right? But if you decide you got to talk to somebody else, let's give them just something, and then I'd like to hear. You can make it as anecdotal as you want, or theoretically, if a business did this wrong, this is how I would fix it, as opposed to, no, these guys screwed this up and here's what I did, right? But I'd love to hear one of those horror stories you've had to clean up. But let's give people some marching orders or a shopping list to take out with them. So they go, Ben said I should ask these questions. Here we go, like an interview guide. What should people watch for getting involved? Because software is just as mercurial as marketing and a lot of other agencies where you're kind of trusting somebody with your money before you even get something. And most of the time it's, I can't hand you these things, right? It might go on here, but until it's done, I have no clue what I'm getting really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good question, Mitch. And I hope my answer here will be enough. And it's a constant, ever evolving thing. So yeah, you're right. I get a lot of clients that will come to me with usually a problem, and they've run into a situation where their current software developer or agency or whoever they're working with has dropped the ball, or they're not happy with the results of what they've built. A lot of different reasons. So, and yeah, I wish it weren't that way. But I'll be straight up, software development is hard for most people. I mean, it's extremely difficult to get into. It's extremely difficult to do well. It's extremely difficult to finalize. That's an important point to make, because I see a lot of projects that are started and not finished, or just aren't ready for production usage. So they get stalled in there for a lot of different reasons. And what I see is, that trust factor. And I'm very thankful for the people that put the trust in me to build their software. I don't take that for granted. But it's very difficult for people to hand over money, say, I want this built, and trust that the person they're giving that money to will build exactly what they want.
Oh.
And what I find are common things for why projects don't get done. And some of those reasons are there's not enough planning or product vision from the start, and that can be even with the client. So that's something I work on with them as well. Like, okay, I'm asking them the questions like, what do you really want to do with this product, or why you're building it? What do you want to accomplish? And it can go on from there. There's a lot of different questions I'll ask. If they've completed the market research, is this even a viable idea? Are they duplicating something someone else has already built that's more polished than what they're trying to do? What does the competitive landscape look like? Do they have the persistence and the dedication to see the project through? And things like that. And that can be the customer or the agency they're working with. That can be both sides. And then there's regulatory and legal challenges. So one of my other projects was dealing with the raffle app, for example. And there's very specific legal requirements you have to follow to be able to operate that type of business when you're taking essentially money for a lottery, right?
Yeah.
So there's things we had to do for that, permits and applications we had to make. So yeah, there's a lot of things that can stop a project at that point as well if you haven't done that due diligence. Sometimes people run out of money. That's a very real problem. Sometimes projects can take longer than anticipated. So having a buffer or a lot more capacity than what you think it will take at the start could possibly save your ass at some point later. Right?
There's a rule of thumb in commercial real estate, and I learned this years ago from somebody who I consider an absolute genius expert, because in our community in the province of Alberta, they were probably one of the bigger commercial developers ever. And I remember I was just eavesdropping on the conversation, really. And he goes, whenever I get into a commercial project, I got a really simple rule of thumb. I take whatever my costing is. I know that general contractors and everybody else means well, that it's always going to be higher, add a little more. And then once I'm done there, I automatically add 25%, both to the time and to the money. That way I'm never surprised. It's never going to cost more than what I've budgeted for. And it's never going to take more time than what I think it's going to, because now I can work like hell to kind of work it the other way. So if we're there, I'd like to hear that second part, which was one of the worst kind of messes that you probably had to walk into the middle of, because nobody comes to you and says they hurt my feelings and they didn't start anything. You usually come to you and say, they've been working on this for months or years. I don't know what's going on. It's screwed up. Here's what it is. And then I'd also like you, actually, because I know you, to just say, hey, actually, here's some of the things that I've worked on. And by some of the things, I'm like, I did this and I did this and I did this and I did this and I did this, because people also need to understand the breadth. Like, software can do virtually anything, but not everybody can do everything, kind of thing, right? I just think your portfolio is really cool. And of course, we're going to showcase you. I definitely want you to say, I've done this and I've done this and I've done this, but what would you consider, or what would be an amusing story, but maybe what's one of the biggest messes you've kind of waded into? And what did that mean for you? I mean, you got normal work, but you got to also fix other people's problems.
Yeah. There's health and safety management software I took on, over the last couple of years, and Goal Zero. So also, part of the Cyndicate community here. And, I had Jackson come to me and say, hey, we've got the software. It doesn't quite work yet. Our developers struggling. It's taken far too long to get to this point. I need help. So we sat down and we developed a plan, and migrated, that software over, so that we could start working on that and building off of what was there at least. And then we launched earlier this year, or sorry, last year, later last year. So late 2021, we were able to get that software live, launched, and now we're on the next phase of product development. So new features, and things like that. So it was a really drawn out process, but I was able to get Jackson's Goal Zero software live to the point where he's now happy. He's got customers using it, and it's a difficult situation I see from a lot of people coming in with where their projects have taken too long, or their developer just can't do what they said they could, and be able to actually do it.
Yeah. What's the littlest project you've ever worked on?
I don't know. I mean, I'll have people ask me if I can do a logo for them, or if I can fix something on their website. They're not showing the right icon in the search results for some reason. Little things like that. So, with my experience, luckily, either if I don't know the solution already, I've become a very good Googler and can find out the solution very quickly.
Fair enough. What's the biggest project you've ever done?
Biggest project, it was probably Yardstick software, number of years ago. So learning management system. So training, exams, high stakes. So, these are our systems where we've got, brain surgeons taking their, qualification exams. So very, very critical. And when I built the systems at Yardstick, we were doing top 50 companies in Canada, top 500 in North America. Very, very fast growth, high volume, high sales. It was a massive project. Yeah.
When you're sitting where you are right now, what does the next 6 months, year, 2 years look like? Like where is this going for you? What's this developing into? What is Ben's business empire going to look like? What is your little stake in the universe going to be like? What kind of projects are you been working on? Like, what are you looking forward to?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got a number of clients who, I've developed really, really nice relationships with. And I'm here for the long term. So, when I bring on a client, I want to make sure it's a long-term relationship. So, making sure I keep that in place, keep them happy. I've got a couple that will probably bring me on in a more permanent, maybe equity role at some point. We'll see. And I love opportunities like that to be able to share in that long-term growth. I've got Carrot, obviously, which is a big priority for me as well. And having an equity stake in companies is a bigger driver for me, but not the only one. So,
Outstanding. All right. So Ben, what's missing? What's missing from your equation? What are you working on? That's what you're driving towards right now. That's the stuff you want. What are you still working on too? After all, this is about business, right? But it's about where you're a genius, et cetera. But there's always things that we're working on as well. Give somebody a lesson that you've been either working with, or that you got to solve for yourself next. After all, part of Cyndicate Talks is teaching moments, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess the last piece of advice here, plan, make some time to um, put some thought into your plan before you even talk to someone about building software. Do a little bit of research. Um, it shows well when you're talking to a potential developer or agency that's working with you. It shows that you're serious. That you've got that commitment, which means that the person that you want to work with you is also going to show a similar level of commitment, right? And that's really important. And then there's the good, fast, and cheap analogy. You can only pick two. Realistically, you can only expect one. And that one point you should expect is good. Because otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah.
Yeah. Chances are you're going to get good if that's what you go in there looking for, but it will not be fast and it will not be cheap. And that's okay. It's a longer journey. You don't need to pay all of it up front. That's going to be an evolution. So revenue can happen before you get your costs, increasing by a significant margin. So working with the right partner to make sure that you have that growth so that it doesn't get out of control is important. Get that good. Doesn't need to be cheap. It needs to be cost effective. And fast is a myth, because while you might get an MVP in relatively short time, if you're going for a short-term vision in a project, chances of failure are much higher. Go for the long term.
If you had to start over, and again, I love these conversations because I get to have them with people that I know are experts at what they do and they're passionate about it. If you had to start over, where would you start right now? Because again, technology's changed so much since you got started. And now today it's even evolving. And obviously you have to spend a great deal of time making sure that you're relevant and on top of what's coming. Where would you start if you had to get started in your industry right now? I'm not asking you to deliberately breed your next generation of competitors, but maybe I'm asking you to breed your next generation of competitors because there's not a lot of you. So how would you restart, or what would you go to first?
Like restart my business?
Yeah. Restart your business, restart you. If you had to start fresh right now, what would you do?
If I didn't have all the experience I have, I'd probably get a job and get some experience. But I do have a lot of experience, and I know the things to watch out for, and I know the opportunities. So, if I were to have my experience and start over, that's very easy because I know all the moving pieces. I know where the technology is heading. I know where costs can be saved now in the future. Setting that up now, I could do that tomorrow.
Outstanding, brother. Outstanding. Good work. All right. What did we miss before we sign off for the day? And I tell people how to get a hold of you. What have we missed today? There's always things that we wish we'd covered when we go away later. And between you and I could spend hours and hours and hours talking, of course. So this is a lot shorter than what would even be a normal conversation for us. But what did we miss today? What else do you need people to know about you?
You can check out, our website, www.cloudowl.com. And, we've got a few projects highlighted there. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. Feel free to reach out. I'm in the Cyndicate community, of course. You'll find me there. Send me a message. If you want to talk about your project, where your business is at, happy to have that conversation, whether it's a quick Zoom chat or, if you're in Edmonton locally here, happy to meet you for coffee as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Ben, my brother, it is a pleasure as always to have you here. And of course, I get to talk to you a lot, but still, sharing like this is very much a different thing. So thank you so much for doing that. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, tribe members, and the rest of the world, in the coming weeks, months, years, decades, you see this later on. Chances are, if it's decades from now, this man's name is going to be synonymous with excellence, because he will have built something so extraordinary for the world that you're going to know him just like you know all the other great names inside of technology right now. But if you don't know who he is yet, reach out to him, talk to him. And as always, Syndicate Talks is here to educate you. If you didn't hear what you wanted to hear or needed more information, follow up with Ben. Do not hesitate. Any of our speakers from our first 3 seasons and now into season 4, reach out and ask questions. We've had questions during the live event. We didn't have any today, but that's okay. That's fine. That's okay. People will come back for it later. Reach out, ask questions. Ben is here as a resource. He's an educator. He's an innovator. And of course, he's a complete badass at what he does. So Ben, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters of the tribe, this is Syndicate Talks, Season 4, Episode 3, in the can, in the bag. Check out the previous episodes in this season. Check out the other 3 seasons as well. I am your host, Mitch Camage. We will see you on the next episode, of course. And Ben, thank you. Let's get after it.